Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Innahu laqur'anun kareem. Fi kitabin maknoon. La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun. Tanzilun min rabbil alameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Welcome back to day 29, the viral Spirituality Bites. Alhamdulillah, when I was first coming to grips with the idea that there would be a daily khatira, a daily summary or a daily speech that I would give every day of Ramadan, it seemed very daunting. Say, what am I going to talk about? Like 30, 29, 30 talks is not a trivial task, at least for this needy slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I felt a bit pressured in my mind to think about what am I going to talk about, how am I going to organize it, how is it going to be. But alhamdulillah, we're on day 29 and there is, alhamdulillah, lots of things to talk about. This is the barakah of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's always something that we can be reminded of. There is always something that we can learn. And there's always something that we can do better. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to improve, whether it be through this series of talks or through any means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses for us. So last time we left off, and what I'm going to do is, before we start, I'm assuming, based on the astronomical information that we have, I'm assuming that inshallah tomorrow will not be Eid. We'll have a 30th day of Ramadan. This is what I'm assuming. But of course, we have to go out and sight the moon. And I highly suggest everyone to take a few minutes out after they eat a date or, after Maghrib, to go out and look for the moon. This is the blessed sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Just by making that intention, going out and looking for it, inshallah, we will get the reward for reviving this sunnah. And since I'm assuming that the moon will not be sighted today, that we will have another day tomorrow, I will save the wrap up, the summary, and the to-go kind of message for the rest of the year for tomorrow, inshallah. But in case the moon is sighted, and Wallahu ala kulli shayin qadir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do anything, then I wish to ask your forgiveness for anything that I might have said that was wrong, or if I hurt your feelings, and I ask that you find it in your heart to forgive this humble slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If there was anything good in these talks, it was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if there was anything bad, it was from my nafs. So moving on, we were discussing the inner dimensions of reciting Quran. And the number one thing we mentioned was a very beautiful point that Imam Ghazali mentions is لا يمسه إلا المطهرون, that the same way one cannot touch the Quran if one is not in a state of ritual purity, like in a state of wudu, etc. The same way, it's like the inner and deeper spiritual meanings of the Quran are prohibited for a person that is not spiritually pure. So the more we purify ourselves spiritually, the more deeper interaction and the more meanings we will get out of our interaction with the Quran. Number two was presence of mind. And one of the points that I was mentioning was that it's very rude when you're talking to someone and they're not giving you their full attention. Like if you're talking to someone, like your child, and they're busy just checking their messages on their phone, Say, hey, put that phone away for a little bit and listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm right here, right? I mean, there's like a lot of messages that are not going away anywhere. I'm demanding your immediate attention, so pay attention to me, right? And the same way, it behooves us to actually pay attention to the Quran when we're reading the Quran. It's the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's sort of rude to not give it our full attention, whether that be because we're reading the Quran on our cell phone and we have other messages flowing in at the same time. We should avail our airplane mode on our phone by the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we have to recite the Quran, to say that I'm only going to take in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message right now. All the other messages can wait. I'm not getting notifications, etc. This is a message from Allah. This is the most important message of your entire life. What could be more important than this? So we should give it our full attention and give it our presence of mind. وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. So when the Quran is recited, then listen to it. فَاسْتَمِعُوا, like it's not if فَاسْمَعُوا. فَاسْتَمِعُوا, like pay close attention to it, right? So that you may receive mercy. When you're reciting, your ear is closest to your own mouth. You're listening to the Quran by being recited by you. So pay attention so that you can receive mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So moving on today, we have reflection. Tafakkur, tadabbur. In the Quran it mentions, it's a rhetorical question. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Do they not reflect or ponder upon the Quran, or are there locks upon their hearts? Subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove any sort of lock or seal that is on our heart through His infinite mercy and grace of this month. The ability to ponder and reflect over the Quran is something that many of us lack nowadays. We find it a blessing if we're just able to comprehend some of the meanings, the translation, right, of the Quran, let alone reflect upon it deeply. And what do I mean by reflection? I mean, for example, it's hard to reflect upon something when you just read it once. Right? If you like a certain book, maybe you've read it twice or thrice or 10 times. We keep reading the Quran over and over again, yet we don't think about it. The Prophet ﷺ in Hadith, it's mentioned that he spent the entire night reciting one ayah in his prayer. What was that ayah? بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن تعذبهم فإنهم عبادك وإن تغفر لهم فإنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. If you were to punish them, this is Isa alayhi salam mentioning about what people did after him regarding their deviant beliefs regarding the Trinity and the Son of God and all these khurafat, these bid'at, these problematic aqidah issues that they conjured up after him. If you punish them, if you were to punish them, they are your slaves after all. And that's your right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do whatever He wants with us, and no one can even ask Him about it. لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. That He is not asked regarding what He does, and they are asked regarding what they do, meaning everyone else. No one can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala why He did what He did. For example, if you buy a car and you decide to take a sledgehammer and put a dent in the bonnet of the car, that's your car. Right? No one can come to you and say, why did you do that? You say, it's my car. I can do whatever I want with it. We belong, and everything belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He wishes to punish us, that's His prerogative. Right? No one can ask Him about it. But if you were to forgive them, if you forgive them, you are the mighty, the wise. And the Prophet ﷺ was essentially pondering over this ayah over and over and over again, reciting this ayah over and over again, communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beseeching Him. You can just imagine the different meanings that might have been going through his mind every single time he recited this ayah. How much he cared for us, how much he pondered over the Quran and set an example for us as well. Maybe we should recite an ayah a few times, right? The ulama, they mentioned that in the past maybe it was hard to explain to the people the the pleasure that lay in reciting an ayah over and over again. And then, and this is a very like low example, but just to give you an idea, right? Then people invented the chewing gum, which is something that you keep chewing and it keeps giving flavor. And it keeps giving flavor and flavor and flavor. You keep chewing it. The same way you keep reciting the ayah and it gives you a beautiful, different taste every single bite that you take, every single time that you recite it. We won't know unless we try it. I remember I was praying Taraweeh one year in i'tikaf, alhamdulillah. And lots of scholars were there. And we reached this ayah in Surah Al-Hadid. And standing a little very close to me was a big sheikh. And when the Qari recited, يُنَادُونَهُمْ أَلَمْ نَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ, the hypocrites will call to the believers on that day, when there will basically be a wall that will be placed between the believers and the disbelievers. On the inside will be rahmah, right? You know that people talk about building a wall, right? Like in Jerusalem or in Israel or on the Mexico, US border, right? People talk about building a wall, right? To keep those that are inside and keep those that are outside. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create a wall on the day of judgment. فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ لَهُ بَابٌ بَاطِنُهُ فِيهِ الرَّحْمَةُ وَظَاهِرُهُ مِنْ قِبَلِهِ الْعَذَابُ يُنَادُونَهُمْ أَلَمْ نَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ. Once the hypocrites and the disbelievers will be stuck outside, and on the outside will be punishment, and on the inside will be rahmah. They will call out to the believers, Alam nakum ma'akum? Weren't we with you in this world? Come on, take us with you. Come on, we were with you. Why can't we be with you in this world now? Come on, pull us in. And you can just imagine like what people are thinking when they're reading this ayah. The believers, I'm talking about the believers, right? They're imagining themselves and all their friends from the masjid and all their students and all their teachers and all their parents and family on the inside, and they're on the outside. And they're calling out to them saying, come on, take me. Wasn't I with you in the world? Come on. But they won't be able to help them. And they'll just be left calling out, Alam nakum ma'akum? And then the believers will answer them. You can go read it. It's a very, very powerful verse in Surah Al-Hadid. May Allah save us from that. May Allah make us from the people that are on the inside of that wall, in the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another ayah in Surah Yasin. وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. Stand apart today, you criminals, you mujrimun. Right? Distinguish yourself. In the world, you're walking together, you're hand in hand, you're in the same office, in the same world, living with the disbelievers, the mujrimun, the people that are committing heinous crimes every single day, oppressing people, killing people, genocides. Same world, same food, same everything. On that day, everything will be set apart. And we have to be thinking about this ayah in the context that, wow, what if it said to me on that day, وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. People in the past have passed away. I'm not joking, right? I'm not joking. People have passed away upon reciting these ayahs. People were so soft-hearted and so fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you don't believe me, go read Hilyatul Awliya or Siru Alam al-Nubala of Imam Dhahabi. Allahu Akbar. These are not fairy tale books. These are authentic books by authentic scholars, chronicling the awliya of the nubala of the ummah. We should reflect upon these verses and all the other verses as well. This is just small examples. Comprehension. Number 4, perhaps. Seek to understand the ayat. Study Arabic, tafsir, tafasir, aqidah. There are so many related sciences to do with understanding the Quran, like studying Arabic, studying balagha, studying tafasir, studying hadith, studying aqidah. All these things are branches of knowledge that all come together in the Quran. Right? The Quran cannot be completely comprehended or understood without these, branch knowledges. So, for example, when you read "Laysa kamithlihi shay wa huwa as-sami'ul basir," there's nothing like unto him, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is the seeing, the hearing, the seeing. If you understood some aqidah, had studied some aqidah, it would blow you away. Right? Surah Ikhlas, Qul huwallahu ahad. What does it mean to be ahad? What does it mean to be samad? What does it mean to be sami' al-basir, al-awwal, al-akhir, al-zahir, al-batin? All these different sifat and the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are there, if we understood what they really meant, right? Some of them even seem like they're similar, right? But there's a difference in them. What is that difference? When you read this ayah, ثُمَّ خَلَقْنَا النُّطْفَةَ عَلَقَةً فَخَلَقْنَا الْعَلَقَةَ مُضْغَةً فَخَلَقْنَا الْمُضْغَةَ عِظَامًا, so on and so forth. When it talks about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the human being, right, from stage upon stage and embryology, etc., and then it says, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. When you studied the science that you studied in school and college, right, you studied your biology, etc., and for the doctors, it's like cloud nine, right? They're seeing all these different amazing creative abilities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing the process, should just blow you away. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهُ وَاحِدٌ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ الرَّحِيمُ. What does it mean to be Ar-Rahman? What does it mean to be Ar-Rahim? The Quran starts off with what? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And at the beginning of every surah, it's a message of mercy, it's a message of peace. It could have started off with Bismillahil Wahid al-Qahhar, right? Al-Muntaqim. It could have started off with some other names that have the reflection of the majesty and the jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Instead, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts off with Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Like if you open up a letter and it says, "Dear son, I miss you," right? That's a different letter from what you read up and it starts off citation number 459, Court of Law, Gwinnett County. Right? It's like a completely different feeling when you open up that letter. So when you open up the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it starts off with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The next one, removing obstacles to understanding. According to Imam Ghazali, there are 4 veils to understanding the Quran. Number 1, being overly concerned with the outward recitation. This is one of the tricks that Shaitan uses. Sometimes people, and I'm not downplaying tajweed at all. Okay, do not get me wrong. Tajweed is very important and it's something that we all should learn. We should learn how to recite the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly with a teacher of qira'ah, etc. But then when people start realizing that they need to pay attention to their tajweed, some people go a little too far, like the pendulum swings a complete other way, and they get so involved in the recitation of it, the outwardly recitation of it, that they have no chance to think about what it's saying. Whereas both are important, reciting it properly and reciting it with meaning and understanding and reflection as well. Right? Some people, they get overly indulgent in maqamat, like these scales, right, of recitation, and how it's, how to invoke feelings in the hearts of people when you recite it. It's like, it becomes like an opera, right? And okay, sure, maqamat, you can use them, etc. Some of the qurra use them. You can use it, but only thinking about that when you recite the Quran or listening to the Quran, that's not doing justice to the message of the Quran. The Quran is not just a book to be sung in some fancy scale to invoke feelings like an opera. Number 2, superimposing one's own ideas, perspectives, beliefs on the Quran. So you have some preconceived notion about what the deen is or what the Quran says, and then you try to go about looking for that or justification of that opinion in the Quran. Right? People come with let's say like a feminist, the fake feminism, right? Islam is the real feminism. People come with these fake ideas of what feminism is, and then they start trying to look for ayat that might justify what they're trying to say, going against what the tafasir and the traditional ulama say. They say, look, I'm pondering over the Quran. Or socialists, people with socialist agendas, or nationalists, or anything that is an ism, right? you come with these preconceived notions and you start looking for justification in them, for them in the Quran. No, come with an open mind. Let me see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to say. Let me put aside all my personal beliefs and opinions, and let's see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell me. Okay, and we're just going to finish off these next two quickly, and then leave some time for dua. The darkness of sin. So the heart is like a mirror, and sin creates a cover over it. It like makes it foggy, so that it can no longer behold the divine beauty and guidance. And we must clean this heart. We must make tawbah and keep approaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will allow the magnificence and the beauty of the divine guidance to reflect in our heart. And this is a process. You keep doing it over time. And then lastly, sufficing with meanings from tafasir. The tafasir do not replace your own personal reflection and application. And of course, this is within the bounds of the Sharia, Sunnah, and Aqidah of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It doesn't mean that you come up with your own thing that is contrary or contradictory to the tafasir. No, within the bounds of that, it's allowed to contemplate and personally reflect over these ayat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us better understanding of the Quran. May He allow us to inculcate the Quran in our lives. Please make sure you keep this needy servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your du'as and the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa akhir da'wana